Welcome, friends, to another episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. Tonight is a special episode as it is a collaboration with my other venture online, Positively AEW. This is the first time we're going to drop a video, and we're going to drop this on YouTube. We've had 190 episodes of the podcast. I don't think we've ever done a video yet. I did shortly have a podcast for Positively AEW, but I did not go very far with that. So I'm kind of jumping back into the game here. We'll see what the response is to this, if this is something people have an interest in or not. Should probably introduce myself if you're coming to us by the way of wrestling, not by the way of the Fond Pod. My name's Cody, and I am behind the scenes the guy who runs both our podcast as well as several other social media pages, one of which includes Positively AEW, which is only available on Facebook at the moment. We are a positive outlook on the company AEW, and I thought it might be fun today, instead of just doing my thoughts as a post like I would do normally on our social media, to maybe give a little more insight as far as my takes on some of the things that AEW has going on here heading into this pay-per-view on Sunday the 9th. Very excited for this. This is Revolution, the annual March pay-per-view. I think this is maybe the fifth or sixth one of these. I forget the number they said. This might be the sixth. Seems like AEW's not been around as long as it has been around already, which is a whole nother thing. So that being said, let's jump into this, ladies and gents. We're coming to you from Los Angeles this Sunday for Revolution, and I'm ready to go. As you can see, I got some people coming over to watch the pay-per-view with me. I will probably rent it on YouTube because I've had good luck on there recently. But I did see they made a deal with Amazon Prime earlier today, so that's another streaming option for everyone if you're interested in that. I've also rented just old school pay-per-view through my cable company as well. So lots of options out there. I do miss some theaters around me also had an option for a while to go to the movie theater to watch it, which was awesome because you could do the concession stand as well as just sit in a giant theater full of comfy chairs with fellow wrestling fans. And there was loud cheering and booing and everything together as a collective audience, which was awesome. So anyway, let's get started. One more time. I'm Cody. If you're new to us, our normal podcast is Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing, but I also do the Positively AEW social media page as well. So I'm decked out in my Sting hat and my Farewell to the Icon Sting shirt, one of which I picked up early and one of which I picked up while I was in South Carolina at Revolution last year to say goodbye to the Stinger. It was a most wonderful birthday and Christmas present from my wife. My son and I flew down to South Carolina. Met some wrestlers. We met Anthony Bowens and the host RJ City at the airport luggage terminal, and we saw tons of wrestlers in the airport the day after the pay-per-view. The Bucks were there, Sky Blue, Kyle Fletcher. We saw a lot of people walk through. Daddy Magic was so cranky at 3:50 in the morning. The only one we actually talked to, because I don't want to be that guy who bothers people, we did get a picture with Bowens and RJ at the baggage claim, but the only one we bothered the morning of was Konosuke Takeshita, and that was purely because we were headed to Japan last summer, and I thought it'd be fun to practice a little bit of my Japanese on Takeshita-san when we saw him in the airport, and so he was very gracious. He asked us for the photo, so we do have a photo with him as well, but he was pretty excited about our trip for Japan for us, so that was super nice guy in real life, even though he's obviously a hated heel at the moment in the show. So I considered going through and looking at these matches and what I predict the order would be on the show, but that's not necessarily what I want to spend my time on here tonight. We'll just run through these matches, kind of give you where they went, where I think they're going to go, who's hot, who's not. If you're a follower of my Facebook page, Positively AEW, you know every Wednesday morning I put out a AEW Hot 15, which kind of ranks my ranking of not necessarily the best, not necessarily who has the most championships at the moment, but kind of like who is the it person for AEW, taking into account a combination of win-loss record, promo time, interviews backstage. Are they trending with a couple wins in a row? It's been a while since they've won the big one. Do they have crowd cheers, boos for them? I kind of compile all that together and come up with the weekly AEW Hot 15. And we've done that for maybe eight Wednesdays in a row now, give or take. So it's been kind of fun to watch the rankings go up and down as different people have had, success and a cold streak as well. But I also push it on myself to rank the women wrestlers against the men wrestlers, against the tag team wrestlers, against the trios. So that is a bit of a challenge. I don't know if that's something we will change in the future or not, but currently I have them all kind of in one big pool. But anyway, let's talk about these matches here. So let's start with some of the ones that I think have probably the least heat going for them headed into the pay-per-view this Sunday. Bottom of this, I think by far has to be one of two matches, maybe three, I guess, looking at the list here. We start with the Hurt Syndicate versus the Outrunners. Outrunners just won this championship title opportunity by defeating the Murder Machines on, I believe it was Dynamite this past week. I don't really consider the Outrunners to have a shot at the titles in this. They're just still getting, the Hurt Syndicate as a relatively new team, still a very dominant team. Now with MVP as their mouthpiece as well, they're the total package. They probably should be featured a little more on programming, though. I think they're doing a smart job of keeping them as like an attraction level talent, only having them show up every once in a while. But for my liking, it's a little too infrequent. Like to the point where sometimes they even forget that they're even the tag champs or that they're even there, because a week will go by and we don't see them, and then the next Saturday or a week and a half later, whatever, we'll see them again. But they're definitely going to win this one for sure. Outrunners are amazing. I think they have had such a fun gimmick that they've ran with and got over so much with the AEW crowd. And there's a lot of fans I know on the Positively AEW Facebook page that love the Outrunners because they're always running hot, brother. But it's pretty fun. They don't have a shot in this one, though, unfortunately for them. This is going to be the Hurt Syndicate for sure, picking up a W here. I don't know where they go after this. Not really my intention here to kind of project the future, as I sometimes do. But I don't know. We got some tag teams maybe that might come back, like the Young Bucks maybe, or maybe FTR is going to get back involved here. Or maybe it's O'Reilly and Strong. I don't know who comes up next in the tag picture, but it's not going to be the Outrunners. Maybe it's the Murder Machines getting their shot back. But this is going to be easy one to call. This is going to be the Hurt Syndicate in our first call tonight. Other two, I think, that don't have a lot of heat going for them. Number one is Mercedes Moné versus Momo Watanabe. This is going to be, I would be shocked if Moné loses this one. Her gimmick is based on winning. I don't think she's had her version of the marquee feud yet. Coupled with the fact that they're bringing in a Japanese performer seemingly for just kind of this one-off. I think she's fighting Saturday at Collision also, but I don't really give her much chance to win this thing. Can't say I'm overly familiar with Momo, but the fact that they have already had us kind of tie in Billy Starks backstage with this promo does make me wonder if either Billy Starks is going to make the jump full-time over to AEW from Ring of Honor, and she maybe also loses, maybe wins, but probably loses against Moné, and then eventually this would finally, after years, seems like literal years at this point, it probably is, bring Athena over from Ring of Honor and maybe have her be the person who finally dethrones Moné. There's some good potential there, I think, in that rivalry, but I don't think Watanabe has any chance in this one. I'd be shocked if she won, so this has got to be Mercedes Moné. So we're going to go 2 for 2 on the defenses here. Let's head to the third one that I think is probably the easiest to call, which is Kazuchika Okada versus Brody King. Heard some rumors that they may be looking at potentially merging the Continental title and the International title. I don't know for sure if that's what's going to happen, but I kind of would be in favor of merging them, calling it the International title, keeping the C2 as a tournament where the winner gets maybe some kind of large trophy or something else like that, but not having it be an actual physical belt. More akin to like the Owen Hart tournament where the winners recognize they get something. Okada can claim to be the best tournament wrestler still. He's 2-time champion, etc. but maybe he doesn't have that belt in there. And maybe this is going to quickly be the case because of another match we have on the card. Anyway, Okada is facing Brody King in this match here at Revolution, and King is awesome. I love him. I met him at a Comic-Con C2E2 in Chicago last year or 2 years ago. I forget when he was here. It was when he was a trios champion, so I got a picture with the title over my shoulder. Super nice dude. Again, in person, but his character on the show is a total badass. Like when he slaps people and echoes throughout the arena. Super cool guy. But I don't see him getting a victory here in this one. Buddy was just short on this in the last thing. And when they were at Grand Slam Australia, I think this is Brody's time to lose as well. And then I really hope, I hate to relegate the two of them to it, but I kind of hope they get into the tag team scene at that point because they're really, really good. But I don't know. I don't know if they could both prime to do singles pushes plus Julia doing singles push. It kind of seems like a bit much. I mean, maybe they get Sky Blue when she comes back. Maybe she joins them and the House of Black. Hounds of Hell expands a little bit, and maybe they have a couple tag team threats because I wish AEW would get some women's tag team belts in there. And those tag team belts are what I would like to see replace the Continental title as an actual exchangeable title between the people in AEW. So there we go. First three, I'm calling three defenses. Those would be pretty easy for me. Hurt Syndicate, Mercedes Moné, and Okada to win those three. Now, the rest of these are kind of interesting. We have 6 matches left on the main card, and I'm not going to review how many booms we're going to have in the pre-show, but let's start with Mariah May, Toni Storm. Easily the best story that AEW probably has told. I think I've been watching for about three and a half years now. And this has been like A, one of the longer storylines in AEW, B, one of the most personal storylines in AEW, and C, just great character work, especially by Toni, of course, the timeless one, but also by Mariah May, who's kind of that, slithery, glamorous heel. Great foil for Toni. P.S. How great was Toni at that sit down with Renee on Wednesday? Like, I don't think she cracked an expression change for like 5 minutes in the back. It was amazing how she did that. Really good stuff. This is a tough one because we had obviously Toni as the champion. Mariah took it from her. Toni took it back. So this is the third and presumably one would assume the rubber match going forward in this division. All I'll say is it will be a shock if Mariah May leaves as the champion again. I have to think that this will be Toni Storm because she just won the belt literally 3 weeks ago or something by the time this airs. So I think it has to be Toni Storm. I'm pretty confident on this one also. That being said, if Mariah May loses and this feud is over, where does Mariah May go from here? That'll be interesting to see because we have still a pretty big star, Mariah May. I mean, we have Megan Bayne, who is definitely on the upswing in AEW. I don't know. And if Toni's the only face women's champion, because we have Mercedes as well, then the heels would have to feud with Toni, but obviously Mariah May is not going to because she just did. So I don't know where that goes. Or maybe Bane's just tied up with Thunder Rosa and Stat for a little bit longer till some other stuff changes around, or maybe they have Julia Hart and Sky Blue come back, or the Vendettas in there, or we get Cheetah back, or Jimmy Hayter, or Britt Baker, or AEW has a stacked women's division. They're just only usually featured in 3 storylines, usually one for each belt, and then one other one on the side beyond that. So this is another reason why I think if they added some tag titles to the women, it'd be a chance to really show off. I mean, they have surprisingly 25-30 women in the division that you don't always see or think about. Penelope Ford, Queen Amanada, Serena D, like I said, Baker, Hayter. I don't even know if they still have some of the other people they used to have around. Well, they have Cheetah, they have Sakura, they have Riho, they have oh, I'm probably forgetting some here, just not looking at a list, but there's a lot out there. Who's the one that's with the infantry? Trisha Dora, that's another one. Then they have Athena, I guess they could bring in. They have Billy Starks they could bring in. I mean, they have the women, they just are not showcased. Penelope Ford, uh, Ty Conti at some point you would think would be back. Ruby Soho at some point would be back. I still would love a segment on TV that featured just like woman after woman after woman coming to the ring and just turning into like a 20 lady brawl with feuds that intertwine and women just like knocking on to new people that they haven't seen before as a matchup. I just think to be such a blast. Closest we got to that was the casino gauntlet match for the ladies. So hopefully we get some moment like that coming up here at some point. Let's see. We'll continue on here. Next up, we have. So we have 5 left with the gentlemen, and these are going to be tougher to call. Let's start with Takeshita versus Omega, who is now back. This one's for the international title, and this is the one I was kind of hinting at earlier. I think Omega wins here, even though he is still pretty freshly back, but I think they'd put the belt on him right away, try to capitalize on some of his positive momentum he has, and fans obviously love him because he's Kenny friggin' Omega. But I think he wins this one. It's going to be a great match. Really going to probably push what Kenny is capable of, maybe at this point of being back from his diverticulitis. But I'm going to say Omega wins this, and this is where it gets interesting now. There were rumors, so take them for what you will, that at July's All In pay-per-view in Texas, we may get an Omega Okada match. And if the cards were played out correctly here, this would mean Okada would have the Continental title. Omega, with my fantasy booking here for winning on Sunday, would have the international title. And therefore, they could do a title versus title match at All In between the two of them, who are already rumored to fight each other, in which case they could have Kenny win, merge the belts, and that could be the end of the Continental title as a new belt that people are trading back and forth, and maybe we replace that with the women's tag titles, as I was saying. That'd be a possibility. But I'm going with Omega on this one. Great to see Kenny back. I loved the crash and awe they did with him and Ospreay at the one Dynamite where they're both doing the moonsaults off the pole in the balcony. Okay, down to 4, and this is assuming my record holds at this point for predictions. Boy, really hard on these last 4. I think I feel next most confident in MJF versus Adam Page, Hangman versus the Scumbag. 2 AEW homegrown talents. I know they're not originally both from there, but this is where they got their national exposure at. And I think MJF's going to win this one. Hangman's been riding pretty hot for a while. MJF just kind of is coming back in. This is really his first big feud, I feel like, since he came back from a little bit of a break. And I feel as though MJF has to win this first match, because what I hope I see here is a great lengthy feud between 2 of the AEW originals that lasts throughout the rest of 2025. That would be my ideal scenario here. I want to see Tony and Mariah, but with MJF and Hangman Adam Page. Would love to see that. Hope this will be great. This will be a great match. Very brutal. A little bit of wrestling. A lot of hard hits. Some suplexes. Probably some dirty play from MJF that's going to allow him to eventually pick up the victory. That's my prediction here. Okay, and at that point, if I manage to have these all, which is already not a guarantee when you watch a pay-per-view, that would leave us with 3 to go here. Let's do the cage match next, which is Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher. Ospreay has been hot again, winning almost everything that he's been in. Fletcher was a very credible threat, though I feel like the Callis family in general has taken probably too many losses to stay real credible. So they may need to possibly start to win some of these big matches. I do think Ospreay probably will win this one. I think I'd rather see Fletcher win, though. This is a tough one. This is tough. Trying to remember, I think they both have a win over each other, if I'm remembering that correctly. I am going to pick Fletcher in an upset. And Will Ospreay is currently my favorite guy in the company, but I'm going to pick Fletcher in an upset here. I think he needs this win more. I don't know if that ends the feud for them, though. I don't think so, because we still got the Mark Davis stuff going on. We still got the Don Callis stuff going on, Kenny and Don going on. This isn't over. Maybe eventually we get a Team AEW versus Team Don Callis or something. I don't know. I don't think this is over. Ospreay probably wins, but I'm gonna pick Fletcher on this one. I'm going Fletcher. I don't know. Maybe Callis hands him something through the steel cage or something. Ospreay probably counters that, though. Ooh, that's a tough one to call. These guys have both done some great work. Kyle Fletcher's raised himself up so much. He was awesome in United Empire, and he's the protostar gimmick. I'm loving that with the goofy glasses and all the other shit that he has. I'm loving it. All right. I don't think my record's at 100% at this point, but let's keep it going here. I got two matches left. The next one is Swerve Strickland, who's back in a high-profile feud. Awesome to see him there. We got Prince Nana's robe and possibly allegiance on the line against Ricochet, who came into AEW as almost of a clone of Will Ospreay, which I was very excited for him to be, so that they could have the matches that I wanted them to have. And he has instead transformed himself into something entirely different with this gimmick that he has as like a nerdy, I don't know, heel who like cheats and everything, and he's just so freaking annoying. I just want to bash him in the face, but luckily we have Swerve that can do that for us. This is gonna be a really tricky one too. You would think Swerve's going to get his comeuppance here. Ricochet's got two victories if you count the tag match from Wednesday, but something doesn't feel right on this one. I know Swerve wants to go for the title. Ricochet stands in the way. This is a number one contenders match. I like that they gave Nana a little bit of personality more than he is. It's just the one hit trick that he is. But what are they doing here? Are they setting us up for something bad? I don't know. This one has me really intrigued. You don't think Nana would actually trade sides, do you? I don't know if he would. Maybe. This is a tough one. These guys are both so good. I've been so impressed with Swerve over the last 2 years. I would say how great he's become. Really since like his feud with Keith Lee, I would say that tag team. Swerve in our glory. I'm gonna pick Ricochet. I think that heel can elevate a little further yet up the card. So I'm picking Ricochet on this one. But I don't feel good about it. He's an asshole. All right, let's run these down again. We got one match left to go. So I have MJF winning over Adam Page. Hurt Syndicate defend against the Outrunners. Takeshita loses his title to Omega. Fletcher beats Ospreay in the cage match. Ricochet beats Swerve. Mercedes Moné. I pause on that one again because I'm so unsure. Mercedes beats Watanabe. Tony Storm beats Mariah May, and Okada definitely beats Brody King. Last match for the world title. They'll probably finish with this one, I would assume. Cage match would be a fun one to end with as well, just from an optics standpoint of the cage coming down to end the show. But they're going to have the world title be last, and this is supposedly the biggest storyline, and a storyline in minutes wise it has been, although there's been not a universal like for this storyline. I haven't minded it too much, but I know other people hate it. Moxley versus Cope, last match. I have a lot of thoughts on this one. Abridged, here we go. Does Moxley retain? Does Wheeler Yuta screw Cope over? Stay true to John Moxley? Is there a scenario where we would see like a Bryan Danielson come out? What would he do in this situation? Would he attack Mox? Would he somehow join him out of respect? Maybe that was kind of the original intent of the BCC. Do we have somebody new that's debuting, like a Josh Alexander, maybe even a Speedball Mike Bailey type thing, or somebody else? Maybe we have Renee Paquette involved. Doubtful, but could be. Does Cope win? Do we see Beth Phoenix come out? Does Switchblade Jay White help Cope beat Moxley? Does Switchblade Jay White turn against Cope, join Moxley? Doesn't matter who wins. Does Christian run down and cash in the contract that he has for an anytime match that he's been carrying around for a very long time at this point? Presumably, you would think that he's had that just because of his history with Cope to keep until he wins the title. But would they even give the title to Cope? Because I don't know that he's there for titles necessarily as much as he is to have fun and, you know, put over some of the younger guys and just kind of have some great matches at this point in his career. If Moxley loses, I think that's the end of the storyline with the Death Riders, and he probably takes some time off to do a little reset. And then I don't know, I guess Christian and Cope, that would be your next marquee matchup for the world title, or kind of the feud that's going to go on here. What if they threw us a bigger swerve here? What if they had Christian help Cope? If the patriarchy came down to help? What if FTR gets involved? What if Claudio and Pac and Marina are not actually as out as we think they are? What if we end up with Willow Nightingale out and we end up with like a 5-on-5 stare down in this one? Whether or not you think this is going to be the best match on the card, and don't get me wrong, I think for my money, this is going to be like the probably fifth best match on the card, behind MJF, Adam Page, Takeshita Omega, Ospreay Fletcher, Ricochet, Swerve Strickland. I think this is going to be the fifth best match. It's going to be a different type of match, I think, than three of those for sure. Possibly Ricochet and Swerve could get a little bloody. Maybe MJF, Adam Page could get a little bloody too. But I think this one's going to be interesting because Moxley is probably going to be a bloody mess. And Cope, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what to do on this one. They're going to end the storyline, or they're going to put the belt on Cope? If they do, does he hold the belt for longer than a couple minutes, or does Christian become the new world champion? We're going to have another heel be the champion for a while. Oh, this one's hard. There's too many X factors in this. I'm going to say that I'm going to say Cope does win. Say Cope wins. Christian, I mean, he's got to cash in if it's Cope, right? That would be the biggest swerve if that's not how that played out. I just feel like Switchblade Jay White is going to be involved in this somehow. And probably Wheeler Yuta too. All right, Cope wins. I'm going to say Cope wins, but he's not the pay-per-view. He's not the champion by the pay-per-view going off the air. I'll say Christian cashes in and he's going to take the title right away off him, which isn't that how, didn't like Luchasaurus beat Edge, Adam Copeland right away too? Or so there's something else weird, right? Or Cope won like the TNT title and then he instantly lost it, something like that. Sounds familiar. Anyway, those are my predictions. Let's do them one more time here. So I'm going to say Cope over Moxley, but Cope then is going to lose the title to Christian. MJF over Adam Page. Hurt Syndicate over the Outrunners. Omega over Takeshita. Fletcher over Ospreay. Ricochet over Swerve. Monet over Watanabe. Storm over May, and Okada over King. That's also a pretty good breakdown of heel wins versus babyface wins as well. So should give the audience enough to cheer for, enough to boo for. Anyway, that's going to be it for me, ladies and gents. We'll get this up on YouTube, see what the reaction is to it, see if you guys liked it, see if you want me to do any more of these for pay-per-view previews, or even just maybe as I don't have time in my life probably for a Dynamite review every week, but it would be a lot of fun to do this for that as well. I have some newbies coming over to watch the pay-per-view on Sunday that have not watched more than 3 minutes of pro wrestling in their entire life before. So also have maybe an update on our Positively AEW Facebook page, how that went, the great experiment. We will see if they enjoyed themselves or not. They're going to stay for about half the pay-per-view. I'm very curious what matches they get in the half, because depending on what you see in that half might really change on how you view pro wrestling, whether it's a bloody cage match or a falls count anywhere ladies fight or what. So we'll see. Till then, I want to say thank you to our friends over at Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. That's our main podcast. Again, you can find us all over YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok. We're all over the place on that. But this is a coordinated project with them. So thank you for letting us use their space tonight as we bring to you a special presentation of Positively AEW, taking a look at AEW Revolution this Sunday from Los Angeles. Hope it's a fantastic pay-per-view, and I hope all of you join us, Positively AEW, on Facebook. Take care.